Love is fickle. It can run hot and cold. But when love dies, do you accept your fate or summon the gods to help you revive it? Some believe there are ways to bend love and other people to your will. You just have to know the right spell or potion. But just how far will you go to make love stay? April 24th, 2017. It's a quiet morning in Baker County, Georgia.
Baker County is a beautiful but rural area in Georgia. Lots of land, lots of open, wide spaces.
You see churches on every corner, it seems like. It's one of those places that you would say everybody knows everybody.
The day had started out like any other for 37-year-old Dora Klein.
It's a typical day for Dora. She's doing her housework, her chores.
But around 12:30 p.m., Dora notices something alarming.
She looks up and she notices there is smoke coming from her mother's house.
Dora drops everything and runs down the street to see if her 61-year-old mother, Helen Franklin, is okay.
She doesn't know if her mother's in the house or what could possibly be happening at that point.
By the time that Dora made it down the street to the house, it was already engulfed in flames. And the only person that she saw was a woman who went to her mother's church, 36-year-old Kimberly Gordon. Kimberly was just kind of in shock, it looked like.
Panicked, Dora asks Kimberly if she's seen her mother.
Kim, in a bit of a daze, says that she hadn't seen her, but her husband did go to get help.
That's when Dora heard a noise coming from the tree line behind her mother's property.
She hears this moaning sound, like this gasping.
She rushes toward that noise and finds her mother. She's soaked in blood, and it appears that she'd been stabbed multiple times.
She can barely breathe, and she is quickly losing consciousness.
After Dora finds her mother, she immediately calls 911. She's frantic.
She tells the dispatcher that they need help right away, and she explains that they're in a very rural area, so she's hoping that paramedics make it in time to save her mother's life.
But what really happened to Helen Franklin, and why? Investigators would soon learn that the answer lies with 36-year-old Kimberly Gordon. Single mother Kimberly Gordon had grown up in the neighboring town of Arlington, Georgia.
Kimberly was a small-town girl, but she had big-time dreams. She wanted to be a lawyer. She wanted to be a school teacher. She wanted to own a business. She had so many dreams and aspirations, it was hard for her to really hammer down one.
My mom is a sweet, talkative, nice, outgoing person. She loves people. She would give you the shirt off her back if she could.
Regardless of Kimberly's vast interests, the one thing she cherished most was being a mother.
Kim was a loving and devoted mother. She really put her children first.
I have 2 siblings. We're kind of a small family, together, so we just kind of, stick together. We shopped, we cooked together, we cleaned up together, we walked to the parks together, listening to music. She was just such a nice person.
Kimberly also made sure religion was an integral part of her and her children's lives.
We stayed going to church every Sunday. We read Bibles together, scriptures, give at least 2-3 hours of our time to God each and every day. We try to make that the number one thing in our life.
In fact, Kimberly had a stronger religious conviction than most.
My mom was a spiritualist. She connected with ancestors. She connected with as they say, the African God.
African spiritual practices are often more evident in rural spaces for two reasons. One, rural spaces tend to be more attached to the natural environment, roots, herbs, etc. Rural places are also tend to be more attached to oral traditions and oral histories.
She had candles, herbs, rose petals. For example, if you're gonna do a money ritual, you would probably need green marbles, white candles, $100 bill.
As important as her family and her spirituality was to Kim, it was no surprise she had little time for romance.
She's really using her time to focus on her inner peace and her kids.
But in the summer of 2013, all that would change.
In August of 2013, Kim had met a man who she really felt like stood out from the rest. His real name is Lenoris, but people who love him and know him call him D.
29-year-old Lenoris D. Williams had reached out to Kimberly over social media, and their connection was palpable.
Lenoris was everything that she'd imagined, everything that she wanted her children to be exposed to.
Lenoris did share the same beliefs as Kim. Lenoris had a good job. Lenoris was making good money installing solar panels in the area.
He would buy gifts for them and really just make them all feel like a family. They even went to church services together.
After a brief courtship, Lenoris proposed, and an ecstatic Kimberly said yes.
Lenoris and Kimberly got married at the courthouse in Baker County, a small, intimate wedding in June of 2015.
Inside her new marriage, Kimberly blossomed.
She was in love, and she was with someone who took great care of her financially, where she was able to stay at home and take care of her children.
He'll pay all the bills, get her nails done, give her money to shop, take care of us. I was like, okay, maybe, she's finding the right one, someone that loves her for her.
But would the couple's honeymoon phase last?
Everything seemed to be going great for the two of them. And then abruptly, things began to fall apart.
And when their relationship started to lose the magic, it turned out Kimberly would do anything to get it back.
Kim went along with her husband's vendetta because she loved him so much.
She wanted this curse lifted and was willing to do whatever it took to do so.
Kimberly Gordon believed she'd finally found her soulmate in her new husband, Lenoris D. Williams.
In the very beginning, the relationship was the honeymoon state. Everything was perfect.
It really felt like it was meant to be between the two of them. She was love-struck.
But as the years passed, the couple's relationship became more and more strained.
Lenoris had lost his job, and that started marital issues for the couple.
Stuff started happening. He was a drinker.
And when Lenoris drank too much, he became violent.
The first time I ever seen him put his hands on my mom, I was like, okay, this is not what I want to go through.
But despite his out-of-control ways, Kim was still madly in love with Lenoris.
It had to be the way he came off on her, like, as a sweet, innocent, oh, I'm gonna spoil you, I wanna do this for you and your kids. I promise not to be like other men. And I'm guessing by her being hurt so much and being in so many relationships, she was like, okay, I'm really believing in him.
Kim became obsessed with getting Lenoris back to the man she loved and knew when they first met.
She was willing to do anything that it took to save their marriage.
But no one could have imagined just how far Kim would go. April 24th, 2017. Georgia investigators have just arrived at a shocking scene.
Law enforcement officials responded to the scene of the crime there in the southern part of Baker County. At that point, they saw that the residence was burning.
Local firefighters were able to bring the blaze under control.
Dora Klein, the woman who called 911, tells first responders that her mother, Helen Franklin, is already en route to the hospital.
Because they live in a rural area, she wasn't sure when the paramedics would arrive. So her stepfather drove Helen to the hospital himself.
Dora explains that when she first arrived on the scene, her mother's friend from church, Kimberly Gordon, was standing outside.
Kim seems off balance, like something's just not right with her, and it makes Dora kind of uneasy herself.
After Dora found her mother, her stepfather, Eugene Franklin, and Kim Gordon's husband, Lenoris D. Williams, came running up from the fields. But when Dora saw Lenoris, she immediately felt like something was off.
Dora said that Lenoris had blood all over his shirt.
And that's not all that made her suspicious.
Lenoris and Kim took off on foot. Dora wanted them to stay and tell the police everything they knew. But they were like, we are out of here.
Investigators are just as suspicious of Kim and Lenoris's behavior as Dora.
We knew we had something to go on. A bolo was placed in an effort to try to locate Kim and Lenoris.
Investigators also contact the hospital to check in on Helen. According to doctors, it's a miracle the 61-year-old is still alive.
She had been stabbed about the head, neck, shoulders. She suffered 3 strokes while in the hospital.
Investigators hope doctors can save Helen so that she can tell them firsthand what happened to her.
We just want to make sure that she was going to survive.
It's then that investigators get word from the station that Eugene Franklin has just arrived, so they immediately head out to speak with him. When investigators sit down with Eugene, he is clearly distraught.
Eugene was very upset with what happened to Helen.
He was just overcome with grief. He was just so worried and fearful that Helen would not make it.
Eugene tells investigators he had been working the fields around 11:30 that morning when he noticed smoke billowing in the distance. Seconds later, he saw Lenoris running towards him.
Lenoris ran up to him as he was working, saying that he saw a man running from Helen's house, and the house has been set on fire.
He also noted that Lenoris did appear to have blood on his clothes.
Panicked, Eugene sprinted over to Helen's house with Lenoris trailing behind him.
He rushes to her aid, trying to see what's going on. When he arrives there, and he sees that Helen is in critical condition, he immediately decides to transport her himself to the hospital.
That's when Eugene drops a bombshell on investigators.
He told them that for a brief moment, Helen came to while she was in the car.
Eugene asks Helen, "Who did this to you?" And Helen replies, "Kim and Dee."
Dee was a nickname that was often used for Lenoris.
At this point, police were sure that Kim and Lenoris had way more to do with this than they originally led on to Dora and Eugene. Now they just need to find them, so the manhunt is on.
And it doesn't take long for police to find the couple in a very strange place.
They're in the cemetery, just strolling together.
They were conjuring up some type of spirit to help them.
April 24th, 2017. Investigators in Augusta, Georgia are on the lookout for Kimberly Gordon and Lenoris D. Williams, for their connection to the brutal attack of 61-year-old Helen Franklin.
The doctors indicated some 27 stab wounds.
At this point, the search is on. So an all-county police force is actively looking for Kim and LaNorris.
Later that afternoon, investigators are in luck.
They spotted a man and a woman walking through a local cemetery.
They are just strolling together like nothing's happened.
The couple matched the description of Kim and LaNorris, so police are sure that they found their suspects.
The dirt of the graveyard is filled with so many spirits. That is the belief. Possibly they were conjuring up some type of spirit to help them.
Police tell LaNorris and Kim they're under arrest. And at first, the couple goes peacefully, but not for long.
On the way back to the police car, LaNorris begins to get very agitated.
He became disruptive, violent. It became a wrestling match almost for the cops to get him inside the car.
After the two suspects are processed, investigators sit down with LaNorris first to discuss the events of that morning. Despite putting up a fight during his arrest, LaNorris says he is now ready to cooperate.
LaNorris says he wasn't trying to kill Miss Helen. He was actually trying to save her.
I ain't never been no trouble. We ain't do nothing to this woman. We try to help this woman.
LaNorris reported to authorities that he and his wife, Kim, had been going to visit Helen pretty frequently, seeking spiritual counseling and guidance about their marriage and to better their lives.
Helen was a well-known evangelist in her community, and she actually pastored a church with a small congregation.
My mom felt that Helen was stronger than her with spirits and with God or ancestors.
You know anything about like roots?
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it. Yes, brother. That what happened to me and my wife. Somebody messed us up.
He had the belief that somebody had enacted a spell or conjured some bad energy and placed it upon him.
When people put roots on someone, they are taking a personal object that belongs to that person. Sometimes it can be a string of hair, their fingernails, or any of that. And they are taking it to someone to perform a ritual, a spell. And usually when they do that, it is to bind that person to them emotionally, spiritually, physically.
LaNorris explains that he had just broken up with another woman when he started his relationship with Kim, and the ex had never forgiven him for it.
LaNorris was actually convinced that his ex-girlfriend placed roots on he and Kim's relationship and was causing them all this trouble. Because Helen was so well respected for her spiritual work, that made Kim and LaNorris really feel like she could help them remove the curse that the ex-girlfriend put on them.
LaNorris explains that earlier that day, around 11:30 a.m., he and Kim arrived at Helen's house for one of their usual sessions.
LaNorris said when they got there, there was another car parked outside of Helen's house, and it was a blue sedan. They waited for a moment, and then they saw a man leave the house quickly in that blue car.
It's a black one, and a single black one in the blue car.
Just a moment later, they saw smoke and flames coming from the house.
LaNorris tells investigators he was immediately concerned for Helen's safety.
You seen smoke, you know, and I went in the house. You know, I'm trying to see was she okay? But it was so smoked up in there.
He said he could not find her. The house was rapidly filling up with smoke, making it very difficult for him to see and even breathe.
LaNorris explains that when he couldn't find Helen inside the home, he ran to find Eugene Franklin, who he knew would be working on the property.
I started trying to help this woman, trying to see what she was. Okay. We did not, I'm telling you, we didn't have nothing to do with it.
That's when investigators noticed some suspicious wounds on LaNorris's hands.
How did you cut your hands?
I told you, in glass. I didn't glass.
Okay, what glass?
In her one, she got wonders in her place.
When I interviewed Lenoris claimed that the wounds to his hands were sustained from busting the glass of Helen's residence in an attempt to help locate Helen.
Investigators aren't buying it.
Will you open up your hands for me? Lenoris had a wound to his hand consistent with a slippage wound. If you stab somebody, a knife gets bloody. It's hard to hold on to, and the knife will slide down your hand and cause wounds to your hand. One other thing that you hadn't answered for.
Okay.
How did gas get on your clothes?
It was some gas in there. She had ammonia too. I really, with all this going on, I didn't really pay no attention. You know what I'm saying? And I really gas just spilled on me.
So Lenoris claiming that the gasoline was inside Helen's house just didn't fit. But it didn't make sense as to why Lenoris would have gasoline on his lower extremities if he had nothing to do with starting the fire. Now's your time to tell the truth and to speak your side of the story.
I didn't do it. I'm telling you, we didn't do that.
Lenoris.
Didn't do it.
Lenoris stuck to his story. He points the finger at a mystery man that was leaving the house when they arrived.
The detectives are not buying this. If some guy in a blue car did this, then why did Helen say that Kim and Dee did this?
Investigators are eager to speak with Kimberly.
They want to see if Lenoris and Kim's stories line up.
But Kim's Intero will take police in an entirely new direction.
She said that, yeah, she was saying that you just wait, you just watch what happened to you.
April 24th, 2017. After a brutal attack on 61-year-old spiritual advisor Helen Franklin, Georgia investigators have 2 suspects in custody.
The primary suspects in the attempted murder case are Kimberly Gordon and Lenoris Williams.
Helen is in a hospital in Alabama fighting for her life, and she's unable to tell her side of the story.
In their interview with Lenoris, he told police this was all a big misunderstanding.
Lenoris gave an account to the authorities that he rushed into the house to try to save Helen.
But investigators aren't buying Lenoris' story.
Helen had named Kim and Lenoris as the 2 who did this to her.
Now, they sit down with Kimberly Gordon to get her version of the morning's events.
You have a seat right there for me.
How you doing? Cold. Cold? Well, you won't be cold too long here because it gets hot here.
When I finally saw her in the interview, she was real short with me. She didn't really want to speak to me. She was kind of borderline rude to me.
I really don't know what happened. I just seen the house, just on fire, and then I just jumped, jumped out my truck to help.
She said she was in a daze when she got out of the car, and she tried to call 911, but her phone was dead.
I wasn't in the house.
You sure about that?
I'm positive. I wasn't in no house.
At that point, Kim shuts the entire interview down.
Okay, so you don't want to talk to me anymore. I'm just trying to clarify.
That's all I got to say.
With Kim no longer cooperating, GBI agents obtain a warrant to search her purse.
Here is a copy of the search warrant I obtained for your Michael Kors purse. That is your copy to keep.
Inside and outside the purse, investigators find a wealth of evidence.
They noticed what appeared to be blood on the zipper.
It was determined to be the victims in this particular case.
When we searched Kimberly's purse, we found a Dollar General receipt where a knife was purchased.
And that's not all.
Inside Kimberly's purse was a notebook where she had multiple writings about Helen.
They are talking about hurting Helen, how evil she is, the wrong she's done to them. It's pretty scary and it's quite threatening.
But what had Helen actually done to make the couple so angry?
It was kind of more of a rambling rant, words that just didn't make sense, sentences that didn't make sense.
Considering the incriminating items in Kim's purse, they speak with her again in hopes that she'll give them the whole truth.
When confronted with the new evidence, Kim breaks down.
I can't deal with it. I can't deal with this. I can't. Mm-mm.
I'm gonna take a lot of notes, okay?
Okay.
Kim confirms Lenoris's claim that the couple started seeing Helen to help them with their marital problems, and that they believed the problems were a result of dark roots put on them by Lenoris's ex.
Me and her had the words on the phone way back, the girl. And she was saying
This is the one that put them on Lenoris?
Yeah, she said that, yeah, she was saying that you just wait, you just watch what happens to you. And if you have sexual contact with him, then it transfers, and it's the truth, because it's been time when I've been sexually active with him, my energy, it drains me and I just sleep.
Kim said that she was seeking Helen's help because they really wanted to get these hexes off of them.
And Kim was willing to pay whatever she had to make that happen.
I gave her like $4,000.
You got $4,000 in a chunk at one time or over a period of time?
I gave her $4,000 in a chunk.
Wow.
But despite the sessions with Helen, things between the couple didn't improve.
Lenoris was pretty fed up with Helen. He felt like she was ripping them off.
They were spending so much time and so much money, and he felt like it's not doing any good.
I think that's when he started to like open his eyes and realize like okay, this lady ain't helping us. She making our marriage worse.
Lenoris started to believe that maybe Helen had put a root on them herself and was working against them.
April 2017. Kimberly Gordon is telling Georgia investigators about the events leading up to the brutal attack of 61-year-old Helen Franklin.
She was stabbed more than 24 times.
According to Kim, her husband Lenoris D. Williams became angry with Helen because Helen's expensive spiritual healing sessions weren't fixing their marriage.
He's what you think she's a good person, but she's not a good person. And he's always getting mad. He's like, you always running out there to take her money.
The morning of the attempted murder, Kim says Lenoris woke her up and asked her for money so he could go to the store.
He woke me up and he asked me, he said, do you got $3 or $4? I said, what you need to is don't worry about that. I'm just tired of it with me. And he like, I'm gonna get that.
Kim says she figured her husband was just making empty threats, so she went back to sleep. Until Lenoris returned from the store an hour later.
Lenoris came home, gave her the receipt from the dollar store, and then asked her to go with him to Helen's house.
He woke me and said, you feel like taking me? I said, no. I said, I can't drive because I still got this stuff just on brain jury. He said, well, okay. He said, get up, put some clothes on, ride me. I'm tired of this bullshit.
Kim says that despite her better judgment, she decided to go with Lenoris to Helen's house. But things only got worse from there.
Kim says that when they arrived to the house, Lenoris barged in and insisted Helen fix his life. When Helen explains that it'll be another $350, that's when Lenoris lost it.
This made him furious. He was yelling, he was out of control, he was flipping furniture.
Put the chair in. I was telling him to stop. I guess it's the anger got him to where he just couldn't take it no more.
Lenoris then pulled out the dollar store paring knife and stabbed Helen over and over while Kim watched in fear.
Kim was yelling for him to stop. She was begging and pleading, but he didn't hear her.
And the fear that was in me, I'm scared of it reminding me of how he used to do things to me.
Mr. Williams then poured gasoline all over the house. There was some candles that were in the residence, and that was used with the gas, obviously, to burn up the house pretty quickly.
Then what did y'all do?
And stuff. He grabbed me and he told me if I say anything, same thing will happen to me.
The detectives now believe they have motive, but Kim is still trying to downplay her involvement in the attempted murder.
Miss Gordon had injuries to her right hand that would indicate that she was part of doing the stabbing.
But Kim says she has an explanation.
Kim contends that when they left by foot, she cut her hand on barbed wire.
That don't really look like a barbed wire fence cut.
It could cross it because I started crying. It could cross it.
Just like Lenoris, I began to describe those as slippage wounds to Kim. Kim did not understand what a slippage wound was, so I took my pen out of my pocket and demonstrated holding a knife. And I explained to Kim that knives will often slip. Your hand will slip off the handle and the blade will cut you. Kim didn't believe me. Kim grabbed my pen from me, and while she was holding my pen, the pen laid perfectly over the cut in her hand.
See?
Oh, hold that pen again. Hold that pen again.
I get the same.
Hold that in your hand.
You told me to hold it, so.
Let me look. Boom. Same angle. Let me take a picture of that.
I'm not letting you take a picture of nothing.
Kim wouldn't let me take a picture because you could see a look of shock in her eyes that she realized she had done something that she shouldn't have done.
With Kim's statement in tow, investigators decide to go back and speak to Lenoris a second time.
The detectives play an audio of Kim's confession to Lenoris, and he becomes livid that she's trying to pin this all on him.
I'm not gonna sit and take the blame for something,
So tell us what happened.
Lenoris flips the script and blames the entire attack on Kim.
I was for it.
Okay. How were you for it?
She was like, you don't do this, the time is up. Then I'm gonna leave you.
Lenoris explained that Kim ordered him to go to the dollar store and get the knife.
See, in my mind, I didn't want to do it. It was just my wife, I didn't have nowhere.
Lenoris said that when they went inside the house, that Kim began stabbing Helen. He further professed that he tried to stand in between the two ladies.
Lenoris admits that after Helen was incapacitated, he panicked and helped Kim set the house ablaze.
Yeah, I did that. I did that part.
Did you use a lighter to start it, or did you use that candle?
It was a candle.
He didn't want to admit being the one that stabbed Miss Franklin, but he put himself there. He admitted that he, was involved in the arson stuff.
Lenoris and Kim had turned on each other, essentially. They're pointing the fingers at each other.
But who's telling the truth?
It doesn't matter how many spells, potions, roots, or anything that they have. At the end of the day, it's going to be the evidence that leads investigators to the truth.
Finally, police receive word that Helen Franklin is stable enough to speak and will tell them exactly what really happened the morning she was attacked.
Helen was absolutely terrified.
She said he had a really demonic look in his eyes.
May 2017. Kimberly Gordon and Lenoris Williams have been arrested for their connection to a brutal knife attack on 61-year-old Helen Franklin.
Kim is pointing the finger at Lenoris, and Lenoris is pointing the finger at Kim.
Lenoris said that he went along with the plot in fear of Kimberly's violent nature. And Kim says that Lenoris was plotting the murder all along, and she went along with it out of fear, loyalty, and love for her man.
On May 8th, authorities head to the hospital to speak with Helen, hoping she will be able to provide some clarity on the case.
In my opinion, it is a sheer miracle that Helen was able to survive the incident.
It really speaks a lot to her drive and determination to live.
Helen confirms that she had been meeting with the couple to help improve their marriage.
Fast forward to April 24th, apparently nothing had changed, so they wanted their money back.
According to Helen, they barged in and they were very aggressive toward her. Lenoris insisted that she owed them money for messing up their life.
The couple accused Helen of putting her own hex on them.
She insisted that she did not put any curse or hex on their life, but Lenoris did not believe her.
She said he had a really demonic look in his eyes.
That's when the couple attacked, together.
While Lenoris held her by the throat, he and Kim both stabbed her repeatedly.
After several agonizing seconds, Lenoris released her.
When she hit the ground, she struggled to crawl underneath a desk.
So after Lenoris and Kim assaulted Helen, the area was doused in gasoline and set on fire.
She recalled Kim and Lenoris running out of the house, and she used her last bit of strength to crawl from the home. She collapsed at the edge of the tree line, which is where her daughter found her.
Though Helen's home burned, one item survived the blaze: her Bible.
There was a Bible on the desk right there, and I recall looking at the Bible, and there was a passage there, and I believe it said something to the effect, "I will not be defeated," and she was a survivor. She had not been defeated.
With Helen's statement in tow, investigators charged the couple with aggravated assault, arson in the first degree, and criminal attempt to commit murder.
I think it's pretty clear that both Miss Gordon and Mr. Williams had the wherewithal to commit this crime. They wanted the curse lifted, and certainly for Miss Gordon, she wanted her husband to be happy, and both of them were going to do whatever it took to make sure that that happened, including murder.
In January of 2020, nearly 3 years after the crime, Helen Franklin's attackers plead guilty in order to avoid trial.
We agreed not to prosecute the criminal attempt to commit murder in exchange for a plea of guilty to arson and aggravated assault. I think that each of them understood that their back was against the wall and the likelihood of a conviction in the case was very strong.
Kimberly and Lenoris are both sentenced to 40 years behind bars.
Once Kimberly was sentenced, Jemiah had an outburst and stormed out of the room where the plea was taking place.
I'm crying, my uncle's crying, my grandmother, she's trying to be strong, but I know she's wanting to cry because this is her child. And my brother and sister, they're just wondering like, where mama, where mama? I want my mama, I want my mama. And it's just like, I don't know how to explain to them what's going on.
Regardless of who is believed to be the true mastermind behind this crime, one thing's for certain: Kimberly's obsession with Lenoris caused her to go to the darkest of places, all in the name of love.
Kimberly was willing to do anything to save her man and to save her marriage. Unfortunately, This is the price she has to pay.
No amount of rituals, no amount of spirituals is gonna save something that's not meant to be.
When a woman is in love and she will do anything to keep that love, she's willing to go through any extreme. Kim clearly believes she was deeply in love with Lenoris, and she probably now realizes that she needed to love herself more than she loved that man.